Hi there. This video is an exam paper walkthrough of the Eduqas GCSE Mathematics Higher Tier Component 2 paper from summer 2022. This paper is worth 120 marks in total, and this is the first video of 6. It will focus on questions 1 to 4, which account for 17 of these marks. Eduqas Component 2 papers are calculator papers, so a calculator should be used. A little disclaimer, there may be more than one way to answer a question. The methods shown in this video are not the only way some mathematical skills can be applied. Okay, let's get started. Question 1. The table shows the mass of 90 carrots grown by a gardener. So we have mass in grams and the number of carrots here. Calculate an estimate for the mean mass of these carrots. So we're calculating an estimate for the mean because we have ranges of values that these could be, not exact values. So what I need to work with here is my midpoint. So I'm going to set up a new column here for midpoint, and midpoint is halfway between the start and end value of this range. If you can't spot what that is, add them together and then divide by 2. So the midpoint here is 45. So 60 plus 90, divide by 2. The midpoint is 75. 90 plus 120. 105. Okay, I did it for each of them. And you might have spotted a pattern. It's going up by 30 each time. Just double check, because sometimes these widths, these class widths for this range of values differ. They're not equal. So it's always best to do them individually like that, just in case. So now I have my midpoint. I'm going to multiply it by its corresponding frequency. And there's working out space down here, but I'm doing it all up here. The examiner's still going to mark that. It's just how it makes sense in my brain. So 45 times 9, 75 times 33, 105 times 38, 135 times 8, and then 165 times 2. So now I'm going to add all of these together to get my new total. That's 8,280. So that's my new total. I know that there are 90 carrots in total. So I'm going to do this new total divided by 90. Which equals 92. So an estimate for the mean mass of these carrots is 92 grams. Question 2. Jan, Frida and Peter share some money. Frida gets 3 times as much as Jan and Peter gets half as much as Frida. Part A. Write down the ratio of the amounts of money that they each get. Give your answer in its simplest form. And on the answer line here, it tells us what order we want the ratio to be in. So Jan to Frida to Peter. So let's have a look at the information that we're given. So Jan to Frida to Peter is what we're interested in. Okay, so the information we have is Frida gets 3 times as much as Jan. Peter gets half as much as Frida. Okay, so what we're going to do is, because Frida is the one that we have in common with each of these two pieces of information, we're going to assign a value to Frida. Okay, so let's say that Frida is 2. Never mind the ice cream van again. So if Frida is 2, Frida gets 3 times as much as Jan. So Jan must be 2 divided by 3. Okay. Then it tells us Peter gets half as much as Frida. So Frida gets 2, half of that for Peter is 1. But now we don't want a fraction in our ratio. So what we're going to do is multiply the whole ratio by 3. Alright, so when I multiply this by 3, it leaves me with 2 because we were aiming to eliminate that fraction. 2 times 3 is 6, and then 1 times 3 is 3. We have to multiply all parts of the ratio. So the ratio of the amounts of money that they each get is 2 to 6 to 3 in its simplest form. I know that that's its simplest form because I can't divide 2, 6 and 3 by the same thing. Part B, what fraction of the money does Peter get? So our ratio is 2 to 6 to 3, but we want to know the fraction that Peter gets. So remember, it's Jan to Frida to Peter, and it's 2 to 6 to 3. So we're interested in Peter's part. So he has 3 parts of that ratio, but we need to write it as a fraction, so we need to know how many parts there are in total. So 2 plus 6 plus 3 is 11. So there are 11 parts of the ratio in total, but Peter has 3 of them. So the fraction of money that Peter gets is 3/11. Question 3. Samir buys this digger and expects to use it for 1,250 hours each year. The digger will decrease in value at a yearly rate of 18% of its value at the end of the previous year. Use this information to calculate the decrease in value of Samir's digger when it's been used for 10,000 hours. Okay, so Samir buys the digger and he expects that he's going to use it for 1,250 hours each year. So we need to calculate how many years it would take to do these 10,000 hours. So we're going to do 10,000 divided by what he expects to use it for each year. So that's 8. So that tells us that we're working with a time span of 8 years. So across those 8 years, the digger will decrease in value at a yearly rate of 18%. So if it's a decrease in value, we would start with 100% of the value, but then we're going to take away 18%. It's going to lose 18% of its value. So 100 take away 18 is 82%. Now I'm going to be working with a calculation here. I don't want to work in percentages, so I'm going to times that by, I'm going to divide it by 100, sorry. And when I do that, it will tell me what 82% is as a decimal multiplier. So it's 0.82. Okay, so this is how much the digger cost when he first bought it. So 35,950. Every year it's decreasing by 18%. So we're going to multiply by 0.82, but we're going to raise it to the power of 8 because that's how many years. So that's 7,348.686387. We're working in money, so I'm going to round that to 2 decimal places. So that would be 69. So that's £7,348.69. That's how much the digger is worth after the 8 years. But we want to calculate the decrease in value, guys. So we want to know the difference between the starting value and what it ends up as. We want to know what that decrease is. So we're going to take the new value after 8 years away from the starting value. So that's £28,601.31. So that's our final answer. That's the decrease in value of his digger. Question 4. A circular wheel makes 42 complete turns each minute. Part A. How many degrees does it turn through in 1 second? Okay, so it does 42 complete turns in a minute. But we have to remember there are 60 seconds in a minute. We're working with minutes and seconds here. So 42 complete turns in 60 seconds. Okay, but then we need to think about degrees. Well, this is a circular wheel. And angles in a circle sum to 360. So a full turn is 360. So we're going to multiply this fraction by 360. So 42 over 60. So that's 42 complete turns in 60 seconds. multiply by the number of degrees in a full circle, tells us that he would have turned through 250 degrees in 1 second. I know there's a lot of space to work out there, but there's multiple methods. That would be the method that I would be going with. Part B. State one assumption you have made in your answer to part A. So the assumption that we've made is that it's spinning at a constant speed. Okay, so it's spinning at the same rate each time. Because if it goes faster or if it goes slower at any point, then this is going to change. So I'm going to put here the assumption is the wheel spins at a constant speed, because any kind of speed changes are going to affect our answer there. Okay, B part 2. How would your answer to part A change if this assumption was not correct? Okay, so if it's spinning faster, it will have turned through more degrees because it'll have done more turns. Don't know why I'm doing that on my paper. If it was spinning slower, it would have turned through less degrees because it will have done less turns. So I'm just going to put the faster option. So if it was spinning faster, it could have turned through more degrees because it will have done more complete turns if it was in a minute, if it was spinning faster.